The story of Yu Menglong's death began like a nightmare that millions refused to wake from. To the world, he was the picture of rising stardom, an actor, a singer, a dream boy whose smile could light up the darkest room. But on the night of September 11th, everything shattered. News broke that Yu had fallen from a high-rise apartment in Beijing. Officials quickly labeled it an accident. A tragic mishap brought on by fatigue and perhaps a drink too many. The explanation was too neat, too fast. And almost instantly, the cracks began to show. Fans flooded social media with disbelief. How could a man who had just filmed a new series, who had laughed with colleagues only days before, suddenly be gone in such a brutal, inexplicable way? Hashtags like Justice for You and Truth for You Menglong trended globally. Memorials sprang up across the city. Candlelight vigils where fans cried and held up posters that read, "This is not an accident." The more the authorities tried to contain the narrative, the wilder it spun. Screenshots emerged of messages Yu had allegedly sent to close friends, hinting that he was being watched. A neighbor claimed she saw unfamiliar men in dark suits enter his building just hours before the fall. Even more chilling, whispers spread that a USB drive had been found among his belongings, a drive that could contain secrets worth killing for. International outlets picked up the scent. The BBC called the case China's most mysterious celebrity death in decades. CNN described it as a spiral of silence. Every attempt to bury details only ignited more suspicion. Domestic media, under pressure, avoided speculation. But fans and independent bloggers did not. They pored over CCTV clips, pointing out missing minutes and abrupt edits. One viral post asked, if it was truly an accident, why erase the truth? Behind the noise, one figure remained at the center of speculation, Xing Fei. She was Yu's longtime colleague, his rumored girlfriend, and possibly the last person to see him alive. Days following his death, she disappeared from public view, fueling even more questions. Was she grieving in silence, or hiding from forces larger than herself? As the outcry grew impossible to ignore, the government bowed to public pressure. Weeks later, a stunning announcement was made: a criminal investigation had been launched, and Yu Menglong's case would be taken to trial. The news spread like wildfire. For the first time, the possibility of murder was no longer whispered in shadows, it was spoken aloud in court filings. The opening of the trial was unlike anything the entertainment industry had ever seen. Thousands gathered outside the courthouse, waving banners and chanting Yu's name. Inside, security was suffocating, the air thick with tension. Every journalist wanted front row access, every fan wanted proof that their idol had not died in vain. When the prosecution addressed the court, words landed like thunder: this was no accident. It's premeditated murder. The audience gasped. Reporters scribbled furiously. Flashes from cameras illuminating the solemn faces of the judges. Witnesses were called one by one. A production assistant testified that Yu had begged for rest during his last filming days. His voice hoarse, his eyes haunted. A stylist revealed overhearing a late-night call in which Yu pleaded, "Please, don't touch her. I'll do whatever you want." The court hushed, wondering who the mysterious her was. Then came the testimony that shook the room. A building security guard stepped forward, hands trembling. He admitted he had seen two men enter Yu's apartment building hours before the fall, men he had never seen before. Men without identification. He claimed he was ordered afterward to stay silent. His voice cracked as he confessed, "I couldn't carry the guilt anymore." But the climax of the first day came when the judge called for Xing Fei to take the stand. The gallery collectively inhaled as she walked to the witness box, dressed in black, her face pale with grief. Cameras clicked furiously, capturing the image that would flood news outlets within hours. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the room. "I was with him the night before he died." The courtroom froze. Porters leaned so close they nearly fell from their seats. "He told me something," she continued, tears welling in her eyes. "I promised never to reveal. But I cannot keep it anymore." The gallery erupted in gasps. Judges whispered among themselves. The prosecution leaned forward in anticipation. But before she could continue, the presiding judge struck the gavel. The session was over for the day. Chaos filled the chamber. Journalists shouted questions. Spectators demanded answers. And security hurriedly escorted Xing Fei out of the room. Her unfinished revelation hung in the air like a storm cloud, leaving the public desperate for the truth. Night, Headlines blazed across every platform. Xingfei breaks silence in Yu Menglong trial, secret to be revealed tomorrow. Social media ignited with speculation. Was the secret tied to his manager? A powerful company? Or a darker conspiracy that reached into the very fabric of the entertainment industry? One thing was certain: when the trial resumed, the world would no longer be the same. The next morning, the courthouse felt less like a building of justice and more like a battlefield. Thousands of fans had gathered again. Some holding candles. Some holding signs that screamed "Justice for you." From every major international network lined the steps. Inside, security was doubled. Tension unbearable. Everyone knew that today, the truth would be unmasked. The first blow landed when the prosecution unveiled a recovered USB drive. For weeks it had been whispered about, missed as rumor. But now, under the bright lights of the courtroom, it became the smoking gun. On the screen, bank records and coded emails appeared in cold black and white. Transfers of millions of yuan to offshore accounts. Messages between executives using chilling language like "neutralize the problem" and "he must remain silent at any cost." Gasps erupted when the prosecution played an audio file. Yu's voice, weary and broken. Through the chamber, "They own my life. If I resist, they will destroy Xingfei too." The room froze. Lawyers stopped writing. Judges shifted uncomfortably. Xingfei buried her face in her hands, sobbing. "The most undeniable proof that you had been living in fear, trapped by forces far greater than himself." The evidence didn't stop there. A security guard who had remained silent for months finally confessed. He had seen two unknown men entering Yu's apartment building the night of his death. He had been told to keep quiet or lose his job. Seeing the truth come to light gave him courage. His words sparked chaos. If strangers entered the building, Yu's death could not have been the accident officials claimed. Then came the revelation that detonated like a bomb. Prosecution read the names. The hidden forces were no longer shadows, they had faces. Two senior executives of a powerful entertainment conglomerate, long considered untouchable, were implicated. Empire spanned music, television, and film. They controlled not just contracts but also media outlets and, disturbingly, ties within local law enforcement. They had the power to erase stories, silence whistleblowers, and crush anyone who dared to resist. But the betrayal that stunned the world was the third name. Yu Menglong's own manager, the man fans had seen standing at his side for years. The figure who was supposed to protect him, was exposed as the key enforcer. He had monitored Yu's every move, arranged grueling schedules, and ensured his isolation. Emails revealed him working hand in glove with the executives, discussing payments and strategy. Line in particular turned stomachs: "He won't dare speak. If he does, we'll make sure he disappears." Courtroom descended into chaos. Some spectators screamed. Others cried uncontrollably. Outside, it spread instantly. Hashtags like "Killers Unmasked" and "Courtroom Shock" exploded across social media, flooding feeds with outrage. As the defendants were confronted with the evidence, composure cracked. The manager sat pale and sweating, darting wildly. The executives attempted denial, but the documents and recordings left no room for escape. I was shredded by proof. Finally, the presiding judge called for order. In a voice heavy with gravity, "This court finds the defendants guilty of orchestrating the murder of Yu Menglong." The sentencing followed swiftly. The manager, convicted of premeditated murder, received the death penalty. The two executives, convicted of conspiracy and abuse of power, sentenced to life imprisonment. The verdict landed like a thunderclap. Fans outside the courthouse erupted, some cheering, collapsing into tears. The industry reeled as shockwaves rippled through every studio and agency. International outlets declared it the most explosive courtroom scandal in Chinese entertainment history. For Xingfei, it was both victory and devastation. She had fulfilled Yu's final wish by revealing the secret he had entrusted her with. Yet nothing could erase the image of him slipping away. Nothing could restore what was lost. In a tearful statement after the trial, she whispered, "He is gone. But the truth has been spoken." And that was his last request. Aftermath was seismic. Government officials announced sweeping reforms of entertainment contracts, cracking down on the so-called slave clauses that had destroyed so many lives. Agencies across the country faced investigations, some collapsing overnight, Fans continued to hold vigils. But now their candles burned not just with grief, but with vindication. Menglong's story no longer ended with a fall from a building. It ended with a courtroom that ripped away the mask of power and revealed the rot beneath. His legacy became larger than his career, larger than his fame. He became a symbol of courage, a reminder that even in the darkest corners, truth can claw its way to the surface. And as the gavel struck for the final time, one question lingered like an echo through the chamber and beyond: how many more secrets remain buried in the glittering lights of the entertainment world?